Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, I got to tell you, I'm jacked up for. I have a guest here with me with a ton of energy, and we're already having fun before we hit the record button. So I'm quite sure you're going to have fun listening to this episode. But let me welcome in Dr. Rick Tamlin. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Boy, that opening video, I mean, if that's, brilliant, by the way. Brilliant.
Thank you. I threw that together in 45 seconds.
Yeah. So good. So good.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. So we're talking about today, or we want to talk about impact over income. This is it's a trendy conversation. I'll say that. Yeah. And it's one that's not new, but I want to get your perspective on it because this is a lot of people think you have to sacrifice one for the other. And I have a feeling you don't believe that. So I want to hear, where do you start with people when you have this conversation of impact over income?
Well, okay, let's just get really real. Like income runs our life, right? Let's just get real. We're business owners. You're talking to entrepreneurs. Income is 99%. How do I make more money and how do I leverage? And, all of that is a great conversation. And that's strategy and tactics. I get the strategy and tactics. I know Brandon and you and I both help people with that. And how do you leverage and how, talk to more people. Here I am at a podcast. Thank you for doing like that kind of thinking, right? Strategy and tactics. But I want to talk about you. And if you're listening, I want to talk about you, the engager, you, the impactor. You are the impactor. And sounds like you have like a tooth problem.
Yeah, it sounds like you should see a doctor about that.
Yeah, I know. That sounds like a problem. But you guys get the concept, right? I've been doing this type of work, by the way. I've been in the leadership development space, the personal growth space. Tiny story. So I'm, this is 1983, New York City, probably before you were born. It's midnight. I wake up in the middle of the night, panicked about my future. I'm a broke actor. What do? We turn on the television. Who's on TV at 2 a.m? Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins, right? I watched Tony Robbins 40 years ago talk about the technology of the human. And of course, what do? I buy the tapes, right? It was cassettes. Why am I telling you all that? Because I'm gonna use the L word. I fell in love with the way Tony was talking about it. There was brilliant concepts, but now I'm still a follower, whether you like him or not. The guy has been around forever, and he keeps underlining his own philosophy, his own ideology. So I'm a fan of the impact that Tony Robbins wants to have on people. And he could probably sell me coffee. He could sell me a pen. He could sell me a strategy. He's in that energy of like, he can point me in almost any direction and I'll go in that direction. So that's leadership energy. So first of all, I want to underline the concept of you, the frother of one's good work. You are the person who brings alive the work because the work has already been said 87 ways by 75,000 other people. Do you know that nothing's new? You've heard that, right? Nothing's new. The only thing it's new is the you who bring it alive in your way, your model, your energy, your aliveness, your flailing of hands, whatever it is. So I come out of the entertainment business. So this is why, part of the talk today and part of you and I were talking about how do you become a better edutainer, not just a better educator. And so that's you spoke about it earlier, the energy that you bring. Like we've got to add inspiration within information. We are in information overload. Instead of like, I want to follow that person because of the way they're being, the energy you're bringing to it. Yes, maybe what they say, but Brandon, you and I both know this. You've all heard this concept. People barely remember what you say. They remember how you made them feel. And how you make them feel is with energy and aliveness and dynamism and all those words, So I do this whole training around becoming a better edutainer. It's all based in acting. And I don't mean acting like you're making it up. I'm talking about energy, my vocal quality, my hands are flailing. I'm moving around on the screen instead of the CNN head, don't turn your head. We actually need to be engaging. We need to create energy that comes through the screen and actually enlivens the energy that's in your room there. And so, by the way, doctor, I'm going to make a weird link. Hang with me for a second. So the doctor comes from, I studied during COVID 3 years worth of quantum mechanics, quantum physics. So I'm not a quantum physicist, but I studied the concept of how do you change the molecular energy in your room? Because I am right now. And the quantum field concept is we're all connected. Even though we're on two sides of a screen, two parts of the country, right now, my words, my energy is actually changing the molecular structure in your room as it is in my room. Some of you who are advanced people, you probably know this concept. You've heard of the butterfly, effect. The butterfly flaps its wings over here. It creates a tornado on the other side of the planet. Now, that's a concept for us as leaders and as entrepreneurs to realize that you are the person they're hiring. I've done corporate gigs for years and I've had long-term clients. They literally will buy the first workshop, but they're going to rehire the person. They literally say after the first workshop, Rick, what else do you have? Because we want you in the room, not just your next training in the room. Okay, that's a lot of words. How are we doing?
I was eating that up. I love all of this. And it's so fascinating. First of all, I love that you brought quantum physics into it.
I know,
because
right?
we talk about that all the time, both from a business perspective and a human perspective. And it's so true, yet it's so under leveraged.
Yes.
We don't realize that. I mean, how many times have you let's take Tony Robbins off the stage because he's maybe one of the best examples in the world. How many times have you gone to a presentation, whether it's virtual or physically in a room, where the presenter just was boring and put you to sleep? And it's so easy to move the room if you just understood how to do it.
Absolutely. Because people buy when they're moved, not when they're convinced.
Right.
Convincing is the worst leadership skill training ever trained to try to convince anybody. If nobody wants to be convinced, they need to be moved emotionally, spiritually, physically. I don't care. Move them. And either, by the way, here's the cool thing about the word move. You'll move them either farther away from you or closer to you. That creates the right client. I did a call yesterday. I think I tweaked a couple people, and you know what? They moved away. No problem. Clarity of what I'm all about creates movement towards me or away from me. And I need both. And everybody's attached to, I need more people to come towards me. No, I want clarity of the people who to move away from me just as much as the ones that want to come towards me. The ego, the ego, and for you. Say it again.
I said it makes it easier for them and for you.
Absolutely. There's, it's like, let's stop the madness. Like, oh my God, he's a crazy nut job. Okay, great. Away. Or, oh my God, I love what he's saying. I need to be around that more.
Well, this is a nut job safe space.
Yes, I could tell when we met. I was like, okay, great. We can go anywhere here. So
nut jobs welcome here. Well, I mean, I love this conversation, and I'm curious. So we're going down this path, and I love everything that you said already. Like I just mentioned, I'm curious how we loop this around to impact over income, because I see where you're going. You have to move people, and then of course the backside of that is some sort of income or growth in your business.
What he is selling, yeah, exactly. So of course, let me just go to the sales conversation. First of all, the word sales. So we're always selling something. We're selling a philosophy. We're selling an ideology. We're selling a cup of coffee. You're always selling. If you have a favorite Netflix show and you tell your neighbor they should watch it, you just sold them. So selling is a constant skill. It's happening all the time. So you're never not selling it. just remember that, everybody. We're always selling something. We're always wanting people to join into our viewpoint on anything. But in terms of the actual sales moment, it depends on the entrepreneurs. We're talking to entrepreneurs. What is the service on the backside? The part I want to underline about the sales thing is you have to be so in love with the thing you sell. If you're not in love with the thing you sell, you can't sell it. Because here's the coolest concept. This is a little woo-woo, everybody. Hang with me here. We love being around people who are in love. Think about love story movies, right? So when you sell, when you get so passionate, I'm going to use my crazy coffee as an example. Like, this coffee is the most unbelievable. Like, do you know that the tones and the flavors, you have to be so in love with it and get so maybe even over the top about it that people are like, oh my God, he's really in love with that coffee, right? And that's a weird concept that most people in the leadership space don't talk about. Being in love with the thing you sell is a must, rather than it's going to make me a living. See, that's the part I hope this makes me a living, but I don't really love it that much. And I hope it makes me, think about a job that we do. My dad did a job. He didn't love the job. He made a living. He did not have an amazing life. And he put food on the table. God bless him. It was after World War II. We know that energy. They came home. You got a job. That was it. And you died. That was the perfect arc. We are in a different world now. We get to make it up. The opportunity here, you're doing a like the opportunity to sell and talk about something that it lights you up more than, fill in the blank. Because if you don't love it, I'm not going to fall in love with it.
I hear that. And I think this is so interesting because, I love this podcast because if you go back and listen to the episodes, I always show up with the same energy when I meet a guest. Full disclosure for the audience, I met you for the first time about 3.5 minutes before we started recording.
Yeah.
And I can tell when someone else is not in love with being in that moment. Because the way I show up is consistent. So if they're not giving me the same energy back, it's just not a good episode. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm curious from your perspective, from the quantum physical perspective too. I don't know if you want to dive into this, but it just popped in my head. When you have a salesperson that's in love with what they're selling, you said you can feel it. It's vibrational. What about when you have a salesperson that's in love with the money they get from selling the product? There is still love, but it's not motivated by the same force. How do you differentiate that? What do you feel as the consumer on the other end?
That's a great question. I think I feel I'm just a vehicle for them to then have a, more successful economic life. They don't love the Chevy they're selling. The car salesman, car salesmen move from dealer to dealer, right? They're just, now if they love cars, but you can kind of feel that, I need to make my quota. You can feel it. I was at I'm going to use that as an example. I was at a car dealership the other day. It was like, he couldn't have been more bored. And I literally was like, I wanted to give him feedback and go, do you know, I never want to walk back into your dealership again. And I happen to love your car. I love your brand, but you right now are the worst representative of this brand I've ever been around. Because you could feel it. It was a Sunday. He did not want to be there. But you know what? Sometimes it's like, yay to the authenticity, but the concept of sometimes you can fake it and then you find it. Like, he could have faked it for 10 minutes. And then we might have had a moment where I met his energy or we met each, and then he was like, oh, this is great to meet you. And it would have actually had him have a better day. But he couldn't find it. He did not want to be there. So there's an example where I'm going to quantum field. The energy, like it mirrors itself. He gave off a particular energy. I tried to hold it like, I love your brand. Oh my God. I'm going to buy a hybrid, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm like, and so it literally, I just start to drift. So to your point, like energy attracts like energy, right? It just can't help itself, but there are times.
What I love to do.
Yeah, you go.
No, I was going to say I love in those situations because life's
Yeah.
too short not to have fun, right?
Oh my gosh,
And
what's the point?
I know maybe I'm a little bit childish and immature, but in those
No.
situations, I like to make them as uncomfortable as humanly possible.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I was at Home Depot one time, and the cashier who was helping me, I was with my family, my wife and my kids,
Yeah.
and she was just, stone cold. She wasn't having it.
Yeah.
It was again Saturday or Sunday morning. Like she didn't want to be there. You could tell.
Yep. Yep.
It's not the most glamorous job in the world. I understand that, but you have the opportunity to represent a
Yep.
brand, and I think
Yep.
that's the most important thing. And we were trying to crack jokes, and my kids are
Yep.
adorable.
Yep.
Yes, I'm biased, but she wasn't having it. So she
They
finally
are.
goes, is there a PO for the job? And I'm like, first of all, do I look like a contractor? I have 3 little kids here. No, but I just said, no, but I have a little bit of BO. Is that going to be a problem? And it just right over her head. And then she
She
got
missed
it and didn't know what to do. And,
Oh, that,
and I was like, you know
oh,
what? There, you're at
oh,
least going to remember this interaction for the rest of
oh,
this hour.
oh. Yeah.
But
And
how can we
yeah,
inspire our employees to not be those 2 people, to not be the car salesman and not be the cashier, and to actually authentically represent our brand?
yeah. Well, let me just come back. Let me come at that by the entrepreneurship lens for a second, because that's mostly, I think, who's watching this, right? First of all, entrepreneurship, right? We are, if we can't bring fun to this thing that we're doing, then let's not do it. Like, so, I mean, there is hard work. Let's be real. Well, as entrepreneurs, we work between 15 and 20 hours a day. Let's be real. I mean, I still do it. I'm 66 years old. I've done the game, but I'm, here I'm doing a podcast and I'm writing copy. I'm doing a social media, still goes on. You're like, because the people who are seen the most win the most. That's the game. So, but back to your point of the employee thing. Well, I'm going to use Trader Joe's as an example. And, Trader is a US company, right? So very simply, they hire right. They hire personality. They don't hire resume. They just need to know that. Or warm bodies. So you can tell everybody. And by the way, if you're not sort of in that, I'm going to use the J word, sort of joy space, in their space, if you have a down moment, they might send you to the back of the, okay, you need to leave the floor right now. You're kind of a downer. I mean, you can feel it. I don't think they fire people for it, but they are aware if you can't find some joy as you do this task, you're not our people. Can I just have one Trader Joe's moment? That's really fun. I live near one, so I walk there every 10 minutes. I go there. By the way, during COVID, it was my therapy to walk to Trader Joe's. That was it. I just walked through the store. I didn't buy a thing. I was just a mask. I was like,
did
Trader
you follow
Joe's
the arrows and go up and down the aisles the right way?
Yeah, I just followed the arrows I didn't even buy anything. I just wanted to be out, But Trader Joe's, they have this moment, and I've been there enough times the carriages, the carts, right? There's so many of them that go into the parking lot. They ring the bell and they go, carriage collection. I think there's some term they throw out. Now, anybody who's not doing a task at that moment, all go outside. So there's all of a sudden like 25 employees that go outside and they do this thing together. And it's sort of like, I had FOMO the other day. It's like, what is happening? I want to be a part of this, and then I realized they're collecting the carts and I went, oh, I want to help with the carts. Like you could feel the energetic force field of this thing coming out into the parking lot. And then I thought, why do I want to be a part of this? And okay, this is the true story. So then I went back in and said, so at 70 years old, do you hire people? They're like, absolutely. So I'm already preparing because I live a block away. Pay me $18 an hour at 70 and I'll work 20 hours a week so I can be in this much joy because I'm not doing pickleball.
I love that example. It's the brands are magnetic, whether it's you in your retirement plan or as a consumer, like you said, you're attracted.
I want to be in that space. And I don't think leaders think space enough. They think outcome, money, and right. They don't think the space. Steve Jobs understood how to create a space of sales that was off the charts. He was the magician of our culture. By the way, I do a lot of archetype training. He was the magician. He would create that, every sales event, right? Come out in his black turtleneck and And then he'd start to walk off the stage. We know the famous phrase, "Oh, one more thing." You know the one more thing game? And he would turn and out comes the iPhone, right? Out comes the next thing, you know. So he was the master at actually creating a particular magnetic field. And you know, that's neutral, by the way. We all have our moral compass inside that, but the morphogenic field, that energetic space that I keep moving my hands in, that's the morphogenic field. It's neutral. We've decided it's good. We've decided it's evil. We've decided it's full of life. We've decided it's scared. We project into it all the time. So fear does not exist in the space. Fear exists in me, and then I fill it with my fear, and now the space is filled with it.
Absolutely.
Opposite, right? So we are responsible for that morphogenic field energy, and I think people don't think like that. They're just, you know, how do we make money?
And that's obviously not what we talked about today. And Rick, this was an absolute masterclass, an amazing conversation. I wish more people thought like this, but I know with your help, they will, and you're going to get your message out to the world. So if somebody is listening to this, they want to learn more, they know there's more than just the P&L at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Where should they go to learn more about you and everything you're doing?
Very simple, ricktamlin.com. First of all, then, and then I did create, it's a PDF file of upping sort of one's understanding of one's impact, energetic, sort of presence training, if you will. So I call it becoming an edutainer, right? It's not a speaker, you know, sometimes it's the front of the room energy, but to your point, you spoke to it, you know, how to be more engaging, you know, energetically. And I'm going to use the word I was trained many years ago, theatrically. Steve Jobs understood theater. And I don't think leaders understand theater enough because they throw it into the acting world, and that's not authentic. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being more responsible for the energetic impact you're having. So that's a freebie to get that going. And then of course you'll be on my email list. I do a Sunday newsletter, et cetera, et cetera.
Amazing. I love it. And it's one of those things where I think as leaders and as entrepreneurs, especially of growing companies, we don't necessarily think that matters because we're like, I'm not going to be on stage. I'm not going to be doing this podcasting, stuff like that. If you need to move another human being, you need to know this. And if you have employees, people you're selling to, or if you know human beings, I know a couple, you need to know this stuff. It's absolutely imperative. So Rick, thank you so much for coming here today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being one of these people that's getting all kinds of radical new ways to be in the world out into the world. So thank you.
Nut job. Is that the new term for us?
That's the nut job. Was this that nutty? I don't think so. I think
it really wasn't. I love it.
I think it's good. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. By the way, for those of you that are listening, thank you for doing the good work you're doing. It's as I say, it's not for the faint of heart. However, it is for the full of heart. So thank you for being full of heart, everybody.
He did my job. So I'll just say subscribe and we'll see you back tomorrow. We love having you here. Thanks for listening to Harmonious at Lunch.